So what is the best class to choose for your upcoming classic hardcore journey? By the end of this video, it will probably be a lot easier for you to also answer this question. So the rogue could be the right choice for you, maybe even the mage or a hunter. All of this depends on how you would like the journey to be, and the class that you choose will definitely determine if it will be an easy time to reach level 60 or maybe more of a challenge. So the first class that I'm going to cover is the warrior. This character will be fighting in melee range with either a one-hand weapon and a shield or a two-hand weapon. In my opinion, the warrior are probably one of the more difficult classes to get to max level. In the starting zone, the warrior might seem insane, but as you get out of this and you need to kill higher level monsters, then you also start to struggle if you don't have a good weapon. And as a warrior, you can't really make many mistakes without dying. This is not the same case with a lot of other classes. But to be honest, then the warrior is quite fun to play in hardcore, as long as you don't make stupid mistakes and die over and over. For example, charging in when there's a lot of nearby enemies. Here, it would have been way better just to range pull with, for example, a gun. Even though you can't make many mistakes as a low-level warrior, then as you level up, you'll slowly also unlock new abilities that allow you to get away if you make a mistake. For example, at level 8, you unlock Hamstring, so you can slow enemies. At level 22, Intimidating Shout, a fear you can use on a target and other nearby enemies. And like it wasn't enough, at level 30, when you do your warrior quest, you also unlock Intercept. Intercept is a charge you can use in combat. So if you need to make an emergency exit, then you can always intercept another nearby target to get some distance, and then you just start running. So to be fair, then the warrior isn't too bad of a leveler, as long as you just pay attention to your surroundings and you don't overextend. Whenever I level up a warrior myself, then I also like to do a dungeon once in a while. This is mainly just because I would like to get a rare two-hand weapon. And when I do these dungeons, there's a way higher chance that I might get a good weapon compared to just leveling around in the open world. One thing I also enjoy when I do the dungeons is to play as a tank. Because yeah, as a warrior, you can be one of the best DPS classes at level 60, but also an amazing tank. So if you would like to play a class that requires a bit of a higher skill cap compared to many other classes, and who can also be a bit of a challenge to level up, then the warrior might also be the right choice for you. If you still don't feel comfortable enough to choose this class, then my hardcore warrior leveling guide might also help you. In there, I talk about many different tips and tricks, leveling talents and other things that will help you get to max level. So make sure to check out the description if you would like to see all the different class guides I've made specifically for WoW Classic Hardcore. Some of you might prefer to play a Paladin instead. This class will work a bit like the warrior, so be fighting in melee range with a two-hand weapon. But besides being able to fight in melee range, then you also have access to many different things that will help you level up. For example, being able to heal yourself whenever you're about to die. Use a bubble to prevent any damage taken, or even a freedom that allow you to move out of any root or snare effects. And there's many other things you can do as a paladin simply just to get away without dying. And this is why this class is a lot easier to level compared to the warrior. One thing is being able to bubble yourself as a paladin, but you also have access to a bubble you can cast on a friendly player. This makes the paladin so insane for dual leveling. So if you plan to play with a friend, then being a paladin is a good choice. Another reason why I would recommend you to play with someone is because the paladin is so boring to level solo-wise. Most of the times, you'll just be using your auto attack and then a spell, or maybe even a heal, but that's about it. And that's why I would also recommend you to level up as a group, just to make the experience a lot more fun and enjoyable. Besides bubbles being insane, then you also have access to Lay on Hands. This is another spell that will also make you able to survive a huge mistake. Lay on Hands will instantly restore 100% of the paladin's maximum health, and you can also cast it on a party member. So the paladin is an amazing choice for anyone who would like to be able to DPS, tank, heal, and also be one of the best supporters, especially when you dual level with another player in hardcore. Also remember that your level 40 mount is going to be free. This is a big opportunity, as you can trade the gold that you saved to your friend. So now when both of you are level 40, then you will most likely also be able to ride around. Or if you solo level, then you can spend all the gold that you just saved into items that will improve your leveling speed. or maybe even invest the gold into different items that later on will be worth a lot more. If you're into gold making, then I would also highly recommend you to check out my WoW Classic Hardcore Gold Making Guide. You can find this in the description below the video. If you would rather like to play solo, then a hunter might also be a way better option for you. A hunter is an amazing leveler. You can easily kill many different elite targets just with you and your pet, and between level 10 to 60, the hunter is also one of the fastest levelers in the game. If you're new to hardcore or maybe even WoW, then hunter is also a good choice for you because it's so beginner friendly. As long as you just get to level 10 and you get your pet, well, then it will also be a chill way to level. You will send in your pet and you will just be standing at the back and attacking. And if you get aggro, then you can always activate your aspect of the cheetah. This will increase your movement speed so you can run away. And beside being able to run away from monsters with the spell, then it's also amazing when you have to travel around before you get your mount. The most insane spell you get as a hunter is Feign Death. This is where you will also pretend to be dead, and in most cases it will work successfully, but it can be resisted. Therefore, you always gotta make sure you have an escape route. As you're leveling up your hunter, you will slowly unlock different traps, for example freezing and frost trap. When your frost trap is being triggered, then any enemy in the area will also have 60% reduced movement speed. But I do prefer to use a freezing trap, as this allows me to take down 2 targets at the same time, because the crowd control provided by the freezing trap should also give you enough time to kill another target. So the hunter will definitely be a good choice for those of you that would either like to solo level or just have a chill and easy time on your way to 60. It's super beginner friendly, and even when you make mistakes, then there's also a high chance that you might end up recovering and also be able to survive. And you can also choose your own pet, so if you would like to use a bird, a wolf or something else, well then you can freely choose this. Another class that also unlocks many different pets is the Warlock. The Warlock is a spellcaster that will either be casting shadow balls or applying different damage over time effects to their targets. On top of this, they are also able to chain for your target, so it will not be able to reach them. Meanwhile, the pet is just aggressive and attacking the enemy until it's dead. So what makes the Warlock a good choice for classic hardcore? There are so many reasons. Being able to summon a pet is one thing, but when you just need to apply some damage over time effects, casting a fear or a drain life, then you will quickly also realize how easy it is to level up a Warlock. I gotta say, I've tried to solo elite targets on many different classes, and the Warlock, Hunter and Mage is probably where I had the easiest time. On other classes I sometimes struggle and also end up dying, at least if the elite target is at my level range. And just like the Paladin, then your level 40 mount is also going to be free. All you gotta do is a small quest chain. So is the Warlock a beginner friendly class for a new player in hardcore? Definitely. As long as you know how to master your skills and you don't overextend and pull too many monsters, well, then you will definitely also be able to make it to 60. Many people just tend to be too aggressive because they also feel immortal, and this is why many people die on a Warlock. When you're about to die, then I would highly recommend you to also sacrifice your Voidwalker. This will give you a big absorb shield, and that's why I also prefer to level up with this pet, because it also functions as my tank and a way for me to make a mistake and still be able to survive. So if it sounds tempting to play a spellcaster with a pet, then the Warlock might also be the right choice for you. For those of you that would like to play a spellcaster, but you don't want to control a pet, then a Mage might be a better option for you. So the Mage is a class that does damage with either Frost, Fire or Arcane spells. As you level up, you can also spend points into your talent tree to improve the damage of these ghouls. Leveling as an Arcane or Fire Mage is something I try to avoid. When I play Frost, I have way more control and survivability, and these two reasons is why Frost Mage is amazing for hardcore, as the target will never really be able to reach you, and that way you also avoid taking damage that could potentially end up killing you. Here's some quick gameplay as a Frost Mage. I usually just pull with my Frostbolt to apply some damage and a slow effect. And as the target gets closer to me, I continue to spam the Frostbolt. And just as they're about to hit me, then I use a Frost Nova to freeze them in place. This will give me enough time to make some distance so I can once again start shooting. But Mage is more than just doing this. It's just to point out that you can easily level up this class without taking any damage. Therefore, I believe we should also talk about some of the key abilities as a mage. The first spell being Blink. This teleports you 20 yards in front of the way you're looking. I like to use this spell when I'm about to take a lot of fall damage that could potentially kill me, or if I just need to make an emergency exit. It's also super useful to travel around even faster, especially when you don't have your mount yet. Another spell that also makes this class so unique is Polymorph. This is where you turn your target into a sheep. The duration of this all depends on the rank, but at low level it will still give you enough time to polymorph one target and kill another one at the same time. Being able to CC a target to kill another one is one thing, but you can also use it if you need to make an emergency exit. Then you just polymorph and blink away, and this should give you enough time to also reset the fight. Another cool feature about the mage is that you can craft your own food and water. This is conjured, so when you log out for 15 minutes or more, then it will also be destroyed. But still quite cool when you level up, and you can also trade this to a player. So if you plan to level up with a friend, then playing a mage is not a bad decision. Another huge reason for why I choose Frost Mage is because of Ice Block. This is where you will turn into ice and be protected from any damage taken for 10 seconds. This can be useful to, for example, break a CC, but also if you pull aggro in a dungeon or raid. Leveling as an arcane or a fire mage doesn't allow you to get Ice Block, and if you, for example, like to do dungeons and you accidentally pull threat on a boss, well, then without Ice Block, you're pretty much also dead. With Ice Block, you can use it, and then the tank also have enough time to taunt it back. So having Ice Block, Polymorph, Blink, and even Frost Nova is a huge reason why the mage is an insane class for hardcore. You can make many mistakes and still be able to survive. I mean, you could even pull many enemies and just root them in place. So in my opinion, the mage is quite beginner friendly, as you can make mistakes and still survive. Therefore, many people also make it to 60 as a mage, and I believe this is a huge reason why it's also such a popular class. On top of this, then you can also make different teleports to the main cities. And these teleports can be replaced with portals when you level with a party. That way, all of you will be able to travel around even faster. So if this sounds tempting to you, then the mage might also be the class that you should play in WoW Classic Hardcore. Else, another option would be to play another spellcaster, but also a healer, and this is the priest. Leveling a priest is a bit time consuming, because the leveling speed isn't going to be that fast. What you also gotta get used to is using a wand, because most of the damage that you do will be with your wand, at least at low level. How your rotation usually will be is to apply a shell to yourself, then casting a Mind Blast or a Holy Fire, followed by Shadow Word Pain, and then you will just wand the target until it's dead. This is pretty much how your rotation will be like all the way up to level 40, so it can be a bit boring. But nonetheless, then the priest is an amazing leveler. Because when you have a shield and many different heals, and also the possibility to do decent damage, well, then there's also a high chance that you might not die. Most of the times you will be at full health because of the shield, and therefore if you accidentally pull more, then you can easily run away and not die. And whenever you make a big mistake and you accidentally pull many enemies, then you can always just use your Psychic Scream to fear all the targets, giving you enough time to also make it away without dying. So what makes this class unique compared to many other classes? Well, you can level up as a DPS and a healer, and you can also play both things at max level. On top of this, you have many different buffs you can cast to increase your character's performance. For example, being able to increase your stamina, armor, and even your shadow resistance. And as a dwarf priest, you also get Fear Ward that makes you immune to the next fear. All these buffs, your shield, and also the different heals is what makes the priest an amazing choice for those of you that would also like to level up with a friend. So when you combine a class that is pretty much next to impossible to kill, together with another class that does a lot of damage, then you have an amazing combination. So if you plan to level up with a friend, then one of you playing a priest might not be too bad of a decision. As I was about to record for the rogue, then a priest also appeared and buffed everyone in the starting zone. Quite fun, as I was just talking about how amazing the priests were. But with the priest being covered, let's jump right into the next class, the rogue. The rogue is a melee fighting character that most of the times will only be fighting one, maybe at max 2 targets. It's not going to be able to AoE or do any kind of crazy things against many targets at the same time. In one way, I guess we can say you can deal with many targets at the same time. This is just going to be where you control the fight and constantly CC them. A rogue is quite beginner friendly. Even at low level, you unlock many different abilities you can use to prevent damage or even get away without dying. For example, evasion that increases your dodge chance when you're facing the target, or gouge that prevent the target from hitting you for a couple of seconds, useful if you for example would like to use a bandage or just interrupt a cast, blind that disorientates the target for 10 seconds as long as it doesn't take any damage, sprint that increases your movement speed by 50% for 15 seconds, and on top of this, also vanish. When you vanish, you go back into stealth, and now you also leave combat. Pretty much also a safeguard if you're about to die. All of these spells increase your survivability as a rogue, and it's also mainly why it's so difficult to get killed when you play this class. Being able to control the fight like this will not only benefit yourself, but also anyone you level with, for example in the open world or even in a dungeon. What makes the rogue a bit unique is that you also have stealth. This is where you'll be invisible to anyone. Well, as long as you're not too close to an enemy, else you might also pull this. But it makes the class fun to play because you will be sneaky and also be able to skip many monsters and just go directly for the thing that you're looking for. For example, a quest object or maybe one specific enemy. What usually kills many hardcore players is that they overextend when they don't have their cooldowns. Therefore, I would highly recommend you always to chill when you for example have cooldown on your vanish, sprint or blind. So as long as you follow this advice, then there's also a high chance that you will make it to 60 as a rogue. And in my opinion, the rogue is quite fun and entertaining to level to 60, especially because you won't just be spamming one ability to kill the targets. No, there's so many different variations you can do to take down an opponent. It's also quite beginner friendly because you have so many different things to get away if you make a mistake. This is not the same case if you for example chose to level a warrior. So if you would like to sneak around, be able to solo but also dual level, have a huge impact in a dungeon with your CC and your damage, then the rogue is also the class that you should be playing in classic hardcore. But the rogue is not the only class that can turn invisible. This is also an option as a druid. The druid is however a lot different compared to playing a rogue. Because a rogue will only be doing DPS, a druid can do many different things. Heal, DPS and also tank. I believe this is why the druid is also a good choice, because as you're leveling up, but also when you get to max level, then you'll be able to do many different things. You're not just forced to for example heal, no, you can do very well as every single specialization. And when this is a possibility, then you don't need to level up 3 different classes, no, you can just level up 1 and be able to do everything. So this definitely makes the druid kinda unique, because there's only one other class that has this opportunity, the Paladin. So is the druid a beginner-friendly class? Definitely. At low level you unlock your heals, at level 10 your bear form, and at level 20 your cat form. So by the time you're level 20, you also have many of your most important spells as a druid. And this gives you 40 levels to get used to shape-shifting, healing, and doing your other spells. But what other important spells do you have? Well, Entangling Root will root the enemy for a long time, and if you wish to extend the duration of your CC, then you can always just use a higher rank. What I also like to do as a bear form is to bash the target, then stun the target, and then have time to also cast my Entangling Roots without getting interrupted. If it's difficult for you to get away, then you can always just go into cat form and use your dash ability. This will increase your movement speed by 60% for 15 seconds. Whenever there's a cooldown on my dash ability, then what I do instead is to go into travel form, as this will passively increase my movement speed by 40%. And then there's of course your prowl ability that makes it a lot easier for you to get past an area with many difficult enemies. So if you would like to play a class that is easy to get to level 60 by themselves, but who also provides many different benefits when you level with another player, for example being able to CC, heal, but also different buffs, well then the druid is also the right choice for you. And remember, you only need to level up one character to be able to heal, DPS and tank at max level. So now there's only one more class to cover, the Shaman, a class that uses totems to their advantage. When you level up a Shaman, but also at max level, you will either be playing as a melee character or at range where you cast your different spells. Most people will level up as an enhancement Shaman, so where you'll mainly use a one-hand weapon and a shield and be fighting in melee range. This is of course only in the beginning, because later on as an enhancement Shaman, you also unlock the opportunity to play with a two-hand weapon. By this point, everything also becomes a bit more interesting, especially when you get a Wind Fury proc. This is where you do 2 additional attacks. In some cases, you might be able to do 50% of the target's health in just one attack. So is there anything special beside being able to get a Wind Fury proc? Well, like I mentioned, then you can use many different totems. These will not only benefit the Shaman, but also anyone in the party. And if you pay close attention, then there's also a Wind Fury totem. This allows you to drop a totem that will automatically apply Wind Fury weapon to your party's weapons. So if you plan to dual level with, for example, a warrior, then both of you will benefit a lot from the totem. But of course, you can't just learn it right away, you will need to reach level 32. Beside the Wind Fury, then there's also many other totems that will be useful, for example healing, mana, disease, or poison cleansing totem. And don't forget your tremor. This will remove any fear, charm, or sleep effect from any member within 30 yards of the totem. So totems are just amazing, right? Nah, not always. You can make a big mistake with your totems, for example forgetting to remove them so monsters is being pulled. This is something that can happen quite often with your Searing totem, because this will also automatically attack any nearby enemies. So if you're going to play a Shaman in hardcore, then I would highly recommend you to master and practice how to place your totems correctly, but also how to quickly remove them if they're about to pull an enemy. So what other cool features do you get as a Shaman? At level 20, you unlock your Ghost Wolf. This will increase your movement speed by 40%. So for the next 20 levels, you will be able to travel around in the open world a lot faster compared to many other classes. Ghost Wolf is also extremely useful if you pull too many enemies. Then you can just drop a Earthbind totem, get some distance, cast the Ghost Wolf, and start running away to prevent a death. The sad part about an enhancement Shaman is that this will only really work as you're leveling up. When you get to level 60, you won't be doing too much damage, and what you will also notice is that you will quickly run out of mana. So many people tend to either respec into Elemental or Restoration. Especially Resto Shaman that has amazing heals. For example, being able to cast a chain heal and many other single target heals. I'm not saying you will not be able to play as an enhancement Shaman in raids, but we gotta remember it's hardcore, and if you die, then you also lose your character. So I guess the raid leaders would probably rather want to bring someone that will benefit the raid instead of bringing someone that will only increase the chance of a wipe. So hopefully by this point it will also be easier for you to answer the question, what class will you play in Classic Hardcore? If it's still difficult for you to answer, well then I will try to help you a little bit more. So what I will try to do is to make a list based on every single class and how easy and beginner friendly it is. So the first class is the Warlock. You can level up easily by yourself, your leveling speed is good, you can make mistakes and still survive, and overall it's an easy class to play. But being able to control your pet will require some practice, and it's one of the main reasons why many people also die when they level up a Warlock. So this is why I place it in the A tier. Leveling a Priest is going to be easy, but also a bit boring. Mainly because your rotation will pretty much just be the same, and this is where you use your wand and a few abilities. But it's a solid choice, and many priests also make it to level 60, and on top of this, it's amazing if you plan to level with a friend. The Paladin is so boring to level, but it's easy to understand and also easy to survive with your different bubbles and lay on hands. If you're going to solo level, then I would place it in the C tier, and if you are going to play with a friend, then I would probably place it either in the A or B tier, based on all the things you can provide to a group. But it can't really make it into the S tier, because your damage is also really low. So the next class is the Hunter, and this is also the first one that will make it to the S tier. This is based on many different things. Being able to use a pet, having feign death to prevent a death, using different traps, and also having the possibility to run faster with your aspect of the cheetah. On top of this, learning how to play a hunter is also quite easy. Next up is the warrior, and this class I would either place at the C or D tier, but I'll place it at the D tier because I feel like it's also a class that can be a bit difficult to level, and you can't make many mistakes before you also end up dying, not like the Paladin where you have a bubble or lay on hands. So what about the Shaman? Well, you have your different totems to slow enemies, you're also doing decent damage, and you even have a ghost wolf so you can run faster but also run away from any danger. But based on your leveling speed and all the things that you can do to survive, then I gotta place it in the B tier. The rogue is a fun and amazing choice for hardcore. It's easy to start understanding what you need to do to perform decent, and you have so many different things you can activate if you make a mistake. Sprint, blind, evasion, and even a vanish to completely get out of combat. So yeah, the leveling speed is why it's not going to make it into the S tier, but all the other survivability options is why it's going to be highly ranked. Another class that will also make it into the S tier, together with the hunter, is the Mage. This is based on many different things. The Mage is a fast leveler. You can easily solo more than one target at the same time, and also solo different elites. And whenever you make a mistake, then you can either polymorph a target, use the Frost Nova, or just blink away. Another big reason for why it made it into the S tier is because it's quite beginner friendly and also easy to learn. So how will I rank the Druid? Survivability wise, it's doing so good. You can use your roots, your different forms, or a dash to easily get away and reset the fight. Your leveling speed is definitely good, also because you will be able to travel around a lot faster compared to many other classes before they reach level 40. But the thing is that the Druid also requires a decent amount of skill, at least if you would like to perform good and be able to survive when you make a mistake. You need to quickly swap in between your different forms or even cast a heal or a root, and the fastest way to do this is with key bindings or macros. So if you're not familiar on how to use these kind of things, then it will also be a bit more difficult to level up a Druid, and that's why I'm not going to place it in the S tier. If you enjoyed this video, then you will definitely also like all my other hardcore guides on the channel. For example, leveling guides, tips and tricks, gold making, and even class guides for every single class in hardcore. As always, thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day. Peace!